Lawyers of Reddit, what's your best most badass I rest my case moment? I was on the losing end of this one. I was representing a pro bono defendant who was attempting to regain custody of her children. The family division attorney was laying out his case to the judge for why my client wasn't ready, and his final point was that my client had refused emotional counseling to avoid violent fits of rage that she had inflicted on her children. On cue, my client jumps up screaming, "Fuck you, judge lady. You a stupid cunt. Fuck all for taking my fucking kids, you fucking cunts." I just caught the opposing attorney's smirk of satisfaction as I got up to usher my client out of the courtroom. When I was in law school, I had to argue a case for an exam. I was the last in my class to go, so there wasn't anyone arguing against me. I opened with a motion to dismiss since opposing had failed to show. The judge grading me chuckled and said to shake counsel. I still had to go forward, but we got off on the right foot and I ended up with an A. Genius. Damn, that move is even giving me a shit-eating grin, and I wasn't there. Defendant in a bench trial for a speeding ticket said he couldn't possibly go as fast as the officer clocked him. He knew this because he videotaped himself accelerating from a full stop to the location of where the officer sat. His experiment showed his vehicle could only get to 55 miles per hour and not the 67 miles per hour he was clocked at. The adder then moved to have another speeding ticket issued because the actual posted speed limit was 50 miles per hour. Corporate lawyer, so I don't have cases to rest. But once opposing counsel was forcefully insisting that it was ridiculous for me to expect a certain provision in a contract we were negotiating, and I pointed out that this provision was standard in his own firm's contract forms, as I knew from several prior transactions I'd worked on across from them. Pretty exciting stuff. He took it in stride and said, jokingly, "Well, of course it's fine when we ask for it. Why do you have the right to do that? We will never do that, then why do you have the right to do that? It doesn't matter, we will never do that, then why do you have the right to do that?" And so on and so forth. Transaction law is the best. I was prosecuting some kid. He had an antisocial behavior order, which meant that he was not supposed to go to a certain street. He had pleaded not guilty on the basis that he had not been there. I opened my cross-examination by holding up a map and pointing at the street. I said to him, "You went here, didn't you?" He said yes. In England, we don't say I rest my case. Instead, I looked up at the bench, said no further questions, and sat down. It might not seem badass, but I got the defendant to admit the offense with one question. That never happens. Opposing counsel decided that I had coached my witness and gave him lines to repeat that he was lying. Short version is that he asked the witness if he spoke to me before he testified. Witness said he had. Attorney looked like he thought he had me. Attorney asked the witness what I told him, what instructions I gave him. Witness looked him dead in the eye and said, "First thing he told me was to tell the truth no matter what. He said the lawyer is never the one who goes to jail, that he isn't going to jail for me, and if I lie, I'm on my own." Attorney looked like someone took the air out of him. Everyone in the courtroom simultaneously looked at me. Only time I smirked or laughed in court. I wanted to put my feet up on the table, like I was Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, hands behind my head, and say, "I'm done with this guy." I know, but I was in traffic court one time and saw a lawyer straight up murder a cop with words. The cop had previously testified that the weather on the night of the traffic stop was heavy rain and winds so strong that the defendant could only open his window 3 inches, and that the car had stopped on an area with very little shoulder, forcing the cop to approach from the passenger side, not the driver side. The cop had then testified that he smelled a strong smell of alcohol on the defendant's breath. When the defense lawyer got up, he repeated what the cop had said almost verbatim and asked how he could have possibly smelled alcohol on the breath of someone on the other side of the car through a 3-inch crack in the window on a night with pouring rain and strong winds. The cop sort of opened and shut his mouth a few times, squirmed around in his seat, and said, "That's just what I always write in my log, to remind me that it was a DUI stop. The judge threw the case out. No motion to dismiss needed. Then he took a break and called the traffic prosecutor and the cop into his office. I'm guessing it wasn't for a nice spot of tea and some scones. Edit. Really, people? You've never seen anal in a comment thread before. I represented a company that was sued for breach of contract by a former independent contractor. Dude basically alleged that my client wasn't paying him correctly in accordance with the contract. During his deposition, Dude admits that he never reviewed any documents to make sure his allegations were true, never reviewed his complaint before filing it to make sure the allegations in it were true, and had no idea whether or not my client actually failed to pay him in accordance with the contract. Basically, he tells me that he was suing my client because he didn't think their agreement was fair, even though he agreed to the terms when he signed the contract. The kicker is that he admitted that he owed my client money. At arbitration, he tries to flip his story and starts giving testimony that is the exact opposite of his dep. So I whip out his transcript and undermine his testimony bit by bit. Needless to say, I won that case. Complaining witness accused my client of harassment/stalking. Said she told him numerous times that she wanted nothing to do with him. My client claimed they were dating, but whenever she got mad at him, she'd call the police and say he was harassing her. On the stand, she testified that she'd never dated him, never invited him into her home, wanted nothing to do with him. She presented a photo on her phone of him sitting on her porch to prove that he had come to her property. I asked the judge permission to look at the photos before and after the porch photo for context. Girl had dozens of photos of the guy who was clearly her boyfriend. I showed her one such picture. This is Mr. So-and-so, right? Yes. In this photo, he's on a bed? Yes. The bed is yours? Yes. The bed is in your bedroom? Yes. You took this photo of him? Yes. He's smiling in the photo? Yes. And in this photo, he's wearing your brassiere? Yes. No further questions, Your Honor. It wasn't a trial, though we had one of those, and I won it easily. Just always stuck with me because of how clearly the law supported my position to the point that it was inarguable otherwise, and also because of how ridiculous the claim of monetary damages was. Guy moved out of his apartment, turned in his keys, then came back 15 days later demanding access so that he could retrieve belongings that he had left behind, which at that point had been trashed. It was just some minor furniture type items. Lampshade is the only thing I clearly remember, and a box of his college notebooks. That is notes he took during class. He is furious and sues the landlord in small claims for $5,000, state maximum, because his notebooks have such huge value apparently. They hire me, and I respond, which moves the case out of small claims. It's just the way it works here after time in r/legal advice. I know this is not the case for every state, but our rule is better than yours. But enough aside, this puts him at a huge disadvantage, because now he can't rely on the lax rules of small claims. So he goes out and hires a lawyer. The lawyer calls me to try to talk settlement. I know her pretty well, so I wasn't rude or anything, but I kind of scoffed and was like, no, that won't be happening, and direct her attention to a particular state statute, then read it out loud to her. This statute, unlike everything else in the law, isn't overly long or wordy or hard to follow. It just says bluntly that when someone actually moves out and gives notice of this, items left after 10 days are abandoned. Period. End of story. I could feel her deflate on the phone and encouraged her to dismiss the suit. She did not. We proceeded to a short bench trial in district court that we won. I'm not a lawyer, but the most memorable court scene I witnessed was 1968, Sacramento circa. I was waiting to be tried in traffic court, my usual speeding, before Earl Warren Jr., the son of the great Earl Warren of Supreme Court fame. The guy before me was being tried for reckless driving. When it got down to sentencing, Earl Warren Jr. ordered some nominal fine and that the defendant attend traffic school. The defendant got all upset and began ranting how he didn't need to go to traffic school. As the defendant slowed down, Earl Warren Jr. calmly stated, "Well sir, I cannot make you attend traffic school. I can only issue the order for you to attend. If I find after 2 weeks you have not attended, I will issue an warrant for your arrest and place you in county jail for 30 days. At the end of which I will renew the order for you to attend traffic school. So we can keep you going in and out of jail until you decide to attend traffic school." The guy just grumbled and walked out of court. Don't know if he did go. I certainly did when I got a similar sentence. Terrible people had stolen all of this little old lady's money. They said it was a gift, but their only evidence was a document in the BD person's handwriting that was allegedly dictated. It said September 2012. No day, just the month. Clearly the rogue had forged that when she found out about the lawsuit and, not remembering when she had stolen it, she hoped if she could guess within the month no one could challenge her. So I'm questioning her about it. Exhibit B is the little old lady's bank record. Now that withdrawal at the bottom, is that the alleged gift? Yes. Can you read the date of that transaction for me? August 25th, 2012. Thank you. Thank you for watching the video. Here is a picture of a dog. Good boy. Do you have any similar experiences? Post them in the comments below. And subscribe if you enjoyed this vid. Also check out our other videos.